The Aurora Spire floated in the darkness of space like a shining crystal. Its walls glowed with soft blue light, and its many docking bays were busy with ships from every corner of the galaxy. Warships, trade vessels, and sleek diplomatic cruisers all came to the station for one purpose: to end the longest and bloodiest war in recent history. Inside the Grand Central Hall, banners of different alien empires hung high. The air smelled of strange perfumes and oils from alien worlds. Hundreds of voices murmured as delegates took their seats. It was the day of the Galactic Peace Summit, a meeting that could decide the fate of dozens of species. At the far end of the hall sat the leaders of the Zorath Dominion, tall, scaled creatures with ridged heads and cold, yellow eyes. Their armor gleamed like polished bone, and their presence made many smaller species nervous. The Dominion had been the dominant power in the galaxy for centuries, conquering planets and forcing others into submission. Today, they sat with smug confidence, as if victory was already theirs. Then the human delegation arrived. They walked in calmly, their boots making soft echoes on the polished floor. At the front was Admiral Kalen Ward, tall and broad-shouldered, wearing the dark blue uniform of the Terran Defense Alliance. His silver hair was cut short, and his eyes scanned the room with the calm focus of someone used to battle. Behind him walked Ambassador Rena Hale, a skilled diplomat with a sharp mind and a steady voice, and a small team of aides. The humans did not bring guards in heavy armor or weapons on display, only themselves, standing tall and silent. It was a subtle but powerful message. They were not here to be intimidated. As they took their seats, the whispers began. "So small a delegation," muttered a reptilian envoy to his neighbor. "They think this will save them," hissed another. "They'll beg for peace soon enough," said a Dominion officer, smirking. The opening ceremony began with long speeches from neutral mediators, calling for unity and an end to war. Holographic displays showed images of ruined cities, burning ships, and refugees, the cost of the conflict. For a moment, even the most prideful leaders grew quiet. Then came the real talks. In the private negotiation chamber, the humans sat opposite the Dominion's Chancellor Varys, a tall, skeletal figure with robes of black and gold. His voice was smooth, but every word carried a hidden blade. "Let us speak plainly," Varys began. "The Dominion will allow humanity to keep Earth and its core worlds. In exchange, you will dismantle your military fleets, shut down your outer colonies, and pay reparations for the damage caused during the war." Admiral Ward didn't flinch. "And the Dominion will also disarm?" he asked. The Chancellor's lip curled into something like a smile. "Of course not. The galaxy needs order, and we are that order." The humans said nothing for a moment. Ambassador Hale broke the silence. "You're asking us to hand over our defenses, our livelihoods, and our people's future. That is not peace. That is surrender." Varys spread his claws. "Call it what you will. Your species has fought bravely, but you have no hope of lasting. Against the Dominion in the long term, this is the best you can expect." Around the table, other alien delegates shifted uncomfortably. Some looked away. A few smaller factions hoped humanity would give in, because if the war continued, they might be dragged into it again. Ward's voice was steady. "We came here for fair peace, not humiliation. A mediator from the Trinari Union, a bird-like species, tried to calm the tension." "Perhaps we could discuss partial disarmament and—" "No," Varys interrupted. "The terms are non-negotiable." The talks dragged on for hours. The Dominion offered small, meaningless compromises, but every real demand stayed the same. Humans were to be stripped of power. The aliens around the table began treating humanity as if they had already lost. The human delegation stayed quiet through most of it, listening carefully. Every insult, Every arrogant remark was noted, but their expressions never changed. When the first day ended, the humans stood and nodded politely before leaving the chamber. As they walked down the long hallway back to their quarters, one of the aides whispered, "Sir, they think we're weak." Ward's answer was calm, almost cold. "Good. Let them think so." The next morning, the second day of talks began. This time, the Dominion came with an even harsher proposal: full control over human shipyards and the forced relocation of millions from colonies near Dominion borders. The moment Varys read the terms, a murmur ran through the room. Even the mediators looked shocked. Ambassador Hale leaned forward. "You are asking for the forced movement of entire populations. Do you hear yourself?" Varys's eyes glinted with amusement. "It is for security, unless you prefer the war to continue." A neutral delegate tried again to soften the terms, but the Dominion shut down every attempt. They were not here to compromise. They were here to crush humanity without firing another shot. Ward listened to it all without a word. When Varys finished speaking, Ward finally stood. The room went silent. His voice was low, controlled. "Then we have nothing more to discuss." The human delegation gathered their things. No one rushed. No one looked angry. They moved with the calm precision of soldiers who already knew their next move. The aliens stared in disbelief. No one in recent history had walked out of peace talks, especially not in front of the galaxy's leaders. One of the mediators tried to stop them. "Admiral, please, you can't just—" Ward didn't slow his pace. "We can, and we are." They left the chamber, the sound of their boots echoing in the great hall. The massive doors shut behind them with a heavy thud. Inside, the remaining delegates began speaking in urgent, nervous tones. Some were outraged, calling it human arrogance. Others were uneasy, remembering that humans had already survived odds the Dominion thought impossible. The Aurora Spire's central tower gleamed in the morning light of the nearby sun. Its massive windows looked out into the dark void where hundreds of ships hung in orbit. The second day of the Peace Summit had ended in chaos, and the third day was about to begin. Admiral Kalen Ward stood at the window of his quarters, hands behind his back, eyes fixed on the endless stars. He did not need to look at the news feeds to know what they were saying. Every channel carried the same story. Human delegation walks out of peace talks. Some alien commentators called it a foolish move. Others called it bravery. But Ward knew the truth. It was necessary. Behind him, Ambassador Rena Hale entered the room. She was holding a data tablet, her expression serious. "Dominion has released a statement," she said. "They claim we left the talks because we realized we had lost. They say our fleets are in retreat and that Earth is begging for mercy." Ward didn't turn around. "Let them believe it," she frowned. "Admiral, the neutral factions are nervous. They want us back at the table. If we don't return, they think the war will start again." Ward finally faced her. "The war never really ended. The Dominion just wants to win it here instead of out there." He pointed toward the black sea of stars. In the grand negotiation chamber, the delegates gathered once more. The massive round table in the center was surrounded by banners of every faction. Bright colors, strange symbols, and alien scripts. The air was heavy with tension. The Dominion's Chancellor Varys was already there, tall and motionless, his golden robe flowing around him. His yellow eyes locked on the humans as they entered. The smirk on his face was one of a predator certain of victory. As soon as the talks began, Varys presented the Dominion's final proposal. "For lasting peace," he began, "humanity will surrender control of all military shipyards, dismantle its fleets, and withdraw from all colonies beyond its home system. In addition, 5 million human citizens from frontier worlds will be relocated to Dominion-controlled territories to ensure there are no future conflicts. The chamber went silent. Even some Dominion allies looked unsettled. Ambassador. Hale leaned forward. You are demanding the forced relocation of our people. You are asking for mass exile. Varys did not blink. Security requires sacrifices. Your people will be treated fairly. A murmur of protest rose from the human side of the table. One of Ward's aides slammed his palm on the table. Fairly? You've destroyed half our colonies already. You've bombed cities. Ward raised a hand to silence him. The Trinari mediator, a tall, graceful alien with feathers of silver, tried to calm the room. Perhaps we can explore a middle path. Partial demilitarization on both sides. No, Varys interrupted, sharply. The Dominion will not reduce its forces. We are the guardians of galactic stability. Humanity must accept its place. The words hung in the air like poison. Ward spoke for the first time since sitting down. His voice was calm, but it carried across the entire chamber. You are not offering peace. You are demanding control. Varys's smirk widened. Control is what prevents chaos. And chaos, he said slowly, is what humanity has brought to this galaxy. Several alien delegates shifted uncomfortably. The tension was so thick it felt like the very air was pressing down on them. Ambassador Hale leaned toward Ward. They won't move on anything, she whispered. I know, he replied quietly. For hours, the talks continued, going in circles. Every suggestion the humans made was rejected instantly. Every demand from the Dominion was final, unquestionable. At one point, Varys leaned back in his chair and said, almost lazily, You should be grateful. The Dominion has destroyed civilizations, far stronger than yours, yet we allow you to keep your homeworld. That is generosity. Ward's jaw tightened, but still, he stayed silent. When the session finally paused for the midday break, small groups gathered in corners to whisper. Some neutral factions argued that humans should accept the deal. Better to live under restrictions than face another war. Others feared that if humanity refused, the galaxy would be pulled into another massive conflict. Inside the human delegation's private lounge, one of Ward's aides slammed his fist on the table. Admiral, they're trying to humiliate us. They want us to crawl on our knees. Ward looked at each of them in turn. His voice was quiet, but every word was sharp. We will not crawl, not here, not anywhere. Ambassador Hale folded her arms. If we walk out again, there may be no way back. Ward's gaze was steady. Good. The afternoon session was supposed to finalize the framework for peace. Instead, it became the breaking point. Varys repeated the Dominion's demands, adding one more. Humanity would share all its advanced weapons technology with the Dominion. In return, the Dominion would consider reducing its military presence near Earth. Ward rose from his seat. The room froze. He didn't shout. He didn't slam the table. He simply stood there, looking directly at Varys. Then we have nothing more to discuss. The words were like a thunderclap. The mediators exchanged alarmed looks. The Dominion's officers stiffened, their scaled, hands resting on the hilts of ceremonial blades. Dozens of cameras captured the moment. Varys blinked once, then leaned forward with mock amusement. Are you walking away, Admiral? Again? Do you think this is a game? Ward's answer was a steady, unblinking stare. Slowly, the humans gathered their data tablets and stood. Ambassador Hale met Varys's gaze for just a moment before turning her back on him. The aides followed without a word. They walked in perfect formation toward the towering double doors. The sound of their boots echoed loudly in the silence. Every alien eye followed them. Some were shocked, some were fearful. A few were quietly impressed. As the doors closed behind them, whispers erupted in the chamber. They're bluffing. No one abandons peace talks. If they're serious, we could be at war in weeks. Varys leaned back in his chair, but the smirk on his face had faded. He had expected them to bend, to beg for mercy. Instead, they had left with their heads high, as if they had already chosen a different path. Back in the docking bay, the human delegation boarded their sleek diplomatic shuttle. The hatch sealed with a hiss. Through the forward viewport, the stars of the Aurora Spire's sector glittered. Ward activated a secure comm channel. The holographic seal of the Terran defense. Alliance appeared, followed by the face of a high-ranking officer on Earth. "Admiral?" the officer asked. Ward's voice was cold and certain. "Initiate contingency Iron Dawn." There was no hesitation on the other end. "Understood. Orders will be sent immediately." As the shuttle lifted off, Ambassador Hale looked at Ward. "They think we're weak," she said quietly. Ward's eyes stayed on the stars. "Then they are about to learn how wrong they are." That night, across human space, encrypted orders flashed between fleets. In shipyards, orbiting distant moons, assembly lines roared to life. Warships that had been mothballed were reactivated. Crews were recalled from leave. Supply convoys began moving under heavy escort. On quiet frontier worlds, citizens were told to prepare for possible evacuation. On secret listening posts, long-range sensors scanned Dominion space for unusual movements. The galaxy thought the humans had just lost their last chance for peace, but the humans knew the truth. The peace talks had never been their last chance. They had been the Dominion's. The fourth day of the Galactic Peace Summit began under a strange, tense atmosphere. The Aurora Spire was quieter than usual. News networks from across the galaxy had arrived, eager to see whether the humans would return to the table or storm. Out for good. The docking bays were alive with activity. Camera drones floated like swarms of insects, recording every movement. Delegates from dozens of species whispered to each other in the corridors. Rumors flew faster than the station's shuttle trains. The most common rumor was that the humans were bluffing, that they would walk back into the chamber, accept the Dominion's terms, and save their people from destruction. Others said the humans were unpredictable and dangerous, and that the next war could start before the summit even ended. Inside the human quarters, Admiral Kalen Ward stood before his delegation. The lights were dim, casting sharp shadows. On the walls, everyone in the room had the same look, calm, but ready for action. "Today," Ward said, "we go into that chamber for one purpose, to make sure they understand we will not kneel." Ambassador Rena Hale's eyes were sharp. "You know the media will be there in full force. Every word we speak will be recorded." Ward nodded. "Good. Let them record it." The negotiation chamber was already packed when the humans arrived. Representatives from neutral powers had come in early to watch. Even factions that had sent only small observers before now had their highest-ranking diplomats in attendance. It wasn't every day someone challenged the Dominion in public. Chancellor Varys sat at his usual place, draped in his black and gold robes, his long fingers steepled together. His yellow eyes glittered when he saw the humans enter. The humans took their seats in silence. They didn't even greet the others. It was as if they had already decided the outcome. A mediator began to speak. "Delegates, we are here to—" Varys cut him off, turning to face Ward. "Admiral, have you reconsidered our generous offer?" The word generous dripped with mockery. Ward looked directly at him. "No." A faint ripple of whispers moved through the room. The cameras zoomed in. Varys tilted his head. "Then I must warn you. If you walk away today, there will be no second chance. You will face the full might of the Dominion." Ward's voice was steady. "We already have." The silence that followed was heavy. Everyone could feel the sharp edge in his tone. The mediator tried again to salvage the moment. "Perhaps we could—" Ward stood. The motion was slow, deliberate. Every camera drone in the room shifted to focus on him. He spoke clearly, so there would be no misunderstanding. "We came here for fair peace, not to be chained, not to be stripped of our defenses, our homes, and our dignity. You are not offering peace. You are offering surrender, and humanity does not surrender." A low murmur ran through the chamber. Some alien delegates looked shocked. Others nodded slightly, as if they understood. Ward turned to his delegation. "We are done here." The humans rose together. It was not rushed. It was not emotional. It was controlled, disciplined, the way soldiers leave a battlefield they've decided is no longer worth fighting on. The heavy double doors loomed ahead. Their footsteps echoed on the polished floor. No one blocked their path. No one dared. The last thing the cameras saw before the doors closed was Ward's back, straight, unyielding, and the Terran flag patch on his shoulder. The galaxy reacted instantly. Within minutes, the images were everywhere. News anchors shouted over each other, debating what it meant. On some worlds, crowds cheered humanity's defiance. On others, people shook their heads, saying it was madness. The Dominion's propaganda networks called the walkout the final proof of human arrogance and promised that the next war would be short. But in the shadows of the galaxy, there were whispers. Whispers from smugglers who claimed they'd seen human war convoys moving in secret, from miners on asteroid belts who swore they'd spotted enormous human ships under construction, from fringe colonies that had received encrypted evacuation orders. Back on the humans' diplomatic shuttle, the mood was quiet. They had expected the uproar. They knew the cameras had captured exactly what they wanted. Ward sat in the command seat, looking out at the Aurora spire as it grew smaller through the viewport. Ambassador Hale finally spoke. "It's done. They won't negotiate with us again." Ward's voice was calm. "We don't need them to." He tapped a control on his console. A secure channel opened, and the face of Fleet Admiral Sophia Reyes appeared, the highest military authority in human space. Ward's voice hardened. "Activate Iron Dawn. Stage 2. Reyes didn't ask for clarification. "Understood. All fleets will move to combat readiness. Orders will be sent within the hour." The channel closed. In human-controlled space, Iron Dawn moved like a silent storm. On the shipyards of Luna, massive orbital cranes began lifting heavy hull sections into place for ships bigger than anything the Dominion had seen from humanity before. On the industrial moon of Foros, weapons factories that had been idle since the ceasefire roared back to life. Railguns, plasma batteries, and missile pods rolled off assembly lines in endless streams. In deep space, hidden shipyards, known only to a handful of top commanders, lit up with activity. Prototype warships, each carrying experimental technology, were prepared for launch. Across the galaxy, Dominion intelligence networks scrambled to confirm the reports. The information was patchy, but one thing was clear. The humans were preparing for something big. Inside the Dominion High Command, admirals argued over how to respond. Some insisted it was just a bluff. Others warned that humanity had surprised them before and could do it again. Chancellor Varys listened to them in silence. Then, slowly, he smiled. "Let them prepare," he said. "We will crush them before they can act." But deep down, a small, unwelcome thought whispered in his mind. What if the humans had already acted? 3 days later, Dominion patrols along the border began to disappear. At first, it was blamed on navigational errors or pirate attacks, but then the disappearances increased. Entire squadrons vanished without sending a distress call. When wreckage was found, it showed signs of precision strikes, weapons designed to disable instantly. without giving time for a response. No one knew how the humans were moving so quickly, or how they were hitting targets deep inside Dominion territory. Back on Earth, the Terran Defense Council met in a secure underground chamber. Holographic maps displayed the galaxy with glowing red zones marking Dominion territory. Green lines represented human fleet movements, and they were spreading. Admiral Reyes reported calmly, "Iron Dawn is fully active. All reserve fleets are mobilized. Civilian evacuations from frontier worlds are ahead of schedule." A council member asked, "And the Dominion? Are they reacting?" Reyes allowed herself a thin smile. "They're chasing shadows." Ward, standing at the end of the table, looked at the map. "Good. Let's make sure it stays that way." Far away, in the dim corridors of the Aurora Spire, the mediators of the failed summit sat in private. The oldest among them, a wise elder from the neutral Kalari Republic, shook his head. "They have made a mistake," said one Trinari mediator. "No," the elder replied quietly. "The humans are not the ones who made a mistake." He looked out the window at the cold stars. The Dominion thought they could break them with words. Now they will face the answer humanity gives in silence. The galaxy did not explode into war overnight. Instead, the change came slowly, like the quiet before a storm. On the Dominion's border worlds, patrol ships noticed strange readings, shadows of fleets that vanished when scanned, sensor ghosts that appeared for only seconds before disappearing again. Some captains dismissed them as errors. Others grew uneasy. The truth was far worse. The quiet mobilization. Far from the Dominion's eyes, humanity was moving in silence. On the icy moon of Callistra, inside a deep underground hangar, the TDS Valiant, the largest human battleship ever built, came to life. Its hull shimmered with a new kind of armor that bent sensor readings. Its engines were silent to the point of near invisibility. The ship could cross half a sector without leaving a trace. At the asteroid shipyards of Corvin Belt, smaller but faster destroyers rolled out in groups of 5. Each carried advanced railguns with magnetic accelerators capable of punching through the thickest Dominion hulls in a single hit. All of this was coordinated under Operation Iron Dawn, a plan prepared in secret long before the peace summit even began. The moment Admiral Ward had said the words, "We have nothing more to discuss," the operation had entered full execution. Allies in the shadows, but ships alone wouldn't win this fight. Ward knew humanity needed something else: allies. That meant making quiet deals with species who had every reason to hate the Dominion. Not the powerful empires that sat on the Galactic Council, but the smaller, ignored civilizations that had suffered in silence. In the far reaches of Sector 9, human envoys met with the Dravic Free Tribes, nomadic spacefarers whose homeworld had been stripped for resources by the Dominion decades ago. The Dravic had fast, stealthy raiders that could slip past even the most secure blockades. On the stormy water world of Kirill, human negotiators brought aid to the Arolan Confederacy, a species whose fleets had been shattered by Dominion warlords. In exchange for weapons and food supplies, the Arolan agreed to share their hyperspace mapping technology, maps of hidden routes known only to their kind. One by one, the forgotten and the desperate began to align with humanity. Not because they trusted humans completely, but because the humans were the only ones willing to fight the Dominion openly. The Dominion reacts. Inside the Dominion High Command, reports of strange activity multiplied. Human war convoys spotted near the Arven border, one report read. Unknown ships destroying supply depots in deep space, said another. No survivors from Patrol Fleet Gamma 9. The admirals argued constantly. They're testing us, said Admiral Kor, slamming his fist on the table. If we do nothing, they'll grow bolder. But Chancellor Varys remained outwardly calm. They are insects. Let them run around in the dark. When the time comes, we will crush them. Yet behind his sharp words, unease had begun to creep in. The humans were moving faster than expected, and the Dominion's vaunted intelligence network was struggling to track them. Tension in the Council. Meanwhile, the Galactic Council, the supposedly neutral body meant to keep peace, found itself divided. Some members urged intervention, saying the humans must be brought back to the table. Others wanted to impose sanctions to slow humanity's military buildup. But there were also voices that spoke quietly in support of the humans. They are the only ones who can challenge the Dominion, whispered the Kalari elder. If they fall, we all remain slaves. Meetings turned into shouting matches. Accusations flew. And all the while, humanity stayed silent, offering no explanations and no public statements. Ward's strategy on a command ship hidden in a deep space. Nebula, Admiral Ward studied a massive holographic map of the galaxy. Green icons marked human fleets and allied raiders. Red icons marked Dominion strongholds. Ambassador Hale stood beside him. They're tightening their borders. If we push too far now, they'll respond with full force. Ward nodded slowly. We don't want them to respond yet. Not until everything is in place. Hale glanced at the map. And when everything is in place? Ward's eyes narrowed. Then we end it. The first strikes. The first real blow came without warning. In the far-off Zarathus system, a massive Dominion fuel depot exploded in a chain reaction so violent it lit up the system for hours. Witnesses claimed they saw sleek, unmarked ships jump away moments before the blast. 2 days later, a Dominion communications hub on the moon of Orcs went dark. When a repair crew arrived, they found it abandoned, every system fried beyond repair. These were not random attacks. Each strike cut deep into the Dominion supply lines and coordination. Fleets began suffering shortages. Patrols were rerouted, leaving entire sectors exposed, and still, no one could prove it was humanity. Officially, the humans said nothing. Unofficially, the galaxy knew exactly who was responsible. Fear spreads on. Dominion-controlled worlds, civilians, began to whisper. Stories spread of human ships appearing out of nowhere, striking with surgical precision, and vanishing before the Dominion could respond. To the oppressed, these were stories of hope. To Dominion loyalists, they were tales of terror. Varys ordered increased patrols and border fortifications, but the damage was already done. The fear of the humans was spreading faster than their ships. A message in the dark one night. In the secure war room of the Dominion capital, Varys received a private transmission. It was untraceable, encrypted beyond anything his technicians had seen. When it played, a single figure appeared, Admiral Ward, standing in shadow. His voice was calm. You told us there would be no second chance. You were right. The next time you see me, Chancellor, it will not be in a council chamber. The message ended. No threats, no demands, just certainty. Varys's claws dug into the arm of his chair. For the first time, he felt something he had never admitted before. Doubt. The storm-build's weeks passed. The Dominion found itself stretched thin, chasing human fleets that refused to engage in open battle. Instead, the humans struck where the Dominion was weakest: supply lines, communications, and isolated outposts. Every loss was small on its own, but together they formed a pattern. The Dominion's military machine was slowing, piece by piece. In hidden bases, human commanders reviewed plans for the next phase, the decisive strike that would force the Dominion to the table on human terms. The galaxy watches by now. The entire galaxy was watching. News feeds showed shaky recordings of human ships streaking through the darkness. Political commentators argued endlessly about whether humanity was brilliant or reckless. And still, the humans made no public speeches. No grand announcements. Their silence was more frightening than any threat they could have spoken. Even the neutral factions began quietly shifting their fleets, preparing for the possibility that the war would soon engulf everyone. The final preparation, on the edge of human space in the cold system of Theron Reach, the largest fleet humanity had ever assembled, came together. Hundreds of ships, battleships, carriers, destroyers, and stealth craft formed up in tight formations. At the center, the TDS, Valiant, loomed like a dark mountain, its hull absorbing the faint starlight. Ward stood on the command deck watching the last ships arrive. Every crew was ready. Every weapon was loaded. Ambassador Hale joined him, her voice quiet. "Once we do this, there's no turning back." Ward didn't look away from the viewport. "There was never any turning back, not since the day we walked out of that room." Far away, in the Dominion capital, Chancellor Varys received the latest intelligence report. It contained only 4 words. The galaxy held its breath. For weeks, whispers had spread through the stars, rumors of human fleets vanishing from known space, only to appear again far from where they were expected. Zorath Dominion patrols were nervous. Captains double-checked. Their scanners, even smugglers avoided human sectors. Something was coming. Admiral Kalen Ward stood aboard the bridge of the TDS Resolute. Through the massive viewports, the darkness of space was calm. But Ward knew it was the quiet before the storm. Every ship in the Terran Defense Alliance was ready. Every crew member knew their orders. There would be no speeches now. Only action. "Status?" Ward asked quietly. "Fleet Alpha in position," replied Commodore Reese. "Fleet Bravo reports all systems green. Delta Strike Group awaiting. Signal." Ward nodded. "And the Dominion?" Reese gave a small, grim smile. "They're still gathering for their preemptive strike meeting. We intercepted their command chatter. They think they have another 2 days before we move." 2 days was a lifetime in war. Humans would give them only 2 hours, the trap. Is sprung at precisely 0900 hours Terran Standard Time, across 6 different star systems, the void lit up with human warships. In the Dominion's Calrix shipyards, thousands of workers looked up in shock as Resolute-class battleships dropped out of faster-than-light travel directly above the orbital docks. In the Cavor system, a Zorath fleet guarding a vital fuel depot found itself surrounded by human destroyers and carriers, their targeting systems already locked, and at the Dominion's proud capital station, Varys Prime, a single human stealth cruiser uncloaked right in orbit, a direct message that nowhere was safe. Ward's voice came through every human fleet channel. "Execute Iron Dawn." The humans moved with precision. Dominion communications went dead. In minutes, their military AI networks overrun by human cyber warfare programs. Fleets that tried to organize counterattacks were already under fire before they could even deploy into proper formation. Dominion commanders expected a drawn-out battle. Instead, they were overwhelmed by sudden, unpredictable strikes. Human warships didn't fight like the galaxy's other militaries. Where Dominion ships moved in slow, orderly lines, humans split their forces, attacked from impossible angles, and used tactics that looked like chaos, until you realized every move had been planned. Dominion Captain Raxor, defending the Calrix. Shipyards sent one last desperate message before his ship was disabled. "They don't fight fair!" He was right. Humans never promised to fight fair. Panic in the Council on Aurora Spire. The Galactic Council chamber was chaos. Representatives of neutral species demanded to know why the humans had vanished from negotiations, only to return with a storm of firepower. Chancellor Varys of the Dominion slammed his clawed hands on the council table. "This is a declaration of war!" he shouted. "They are striking without provocation!" Ambassador Chen of Earth calmly adjusted her datapad. "Correction. We gave you every chance for a fair truce. You refused." Varys pointed an accusing finger. You will answer for this aggression. Chen's gaze was icy. We already are. At that moment, a council aide ran into the chamber, breathless, whispering urgently into Varys's ear. His face paled, or at least as much as a reptilian Zoreth's scales could pale. Your fleets, the aide stammered. They've lost contact with 3 sectors, capital defense grid, offline. The break in the war by the 3rd day. The Dominion's outer colonies had fallen silent. Human forces hadn't destroyed them. Instead, they disabled key military assets and simply left. This was the most unsettling part. Humans weren't conquering. They weren't looting. They weren't even occupying territory for long. They were showing that they could. Ward knew this was more powerful than total war. If humanity crushed the Dominion completely, the galaxy would unite in fear against them. But by striking with precision and then pulling back, they sent a clearer message. We don't need to take your worlds. We only need to take away your ability to hurt us. The final message on the 4th day, as the Dominion Council gathered in a hidden bunker on Varys Prime, a secure transmission cut through every comm channel in the room. The screen flickered, and Admiral Ward appeared. His uniform was immaculate, his voice calm. Chancellor Varys, members of the Dominion High Command, this is my only message. He paused, letting the silence press against them. A truce is offered. Equal terms, or no terms at all. No threats, no shouting, just those words. Then, the transmission ended. The surrender hours later, the Dominion's command structure was in shambles. Several sectors had gone completely dark. Half their fleet was disabled or scattered. And their unbeatable capital defenses had been bypassed like a child's locked door. The decision came quietly and desperately. Varys sent an encrypted reply to Earth Command. 1 sentence. We accept equal terms. When the news reached the Galactic Council, some leaders were relieved. Others were deeply unsettled, because for the first time in centuries, a major galactic power had been forced into peace, not by years of grinding war, but by a few days of human precision strikes. The signing, 2 weeks later on Aurora Spire, the truce was signed. This time, the terms were balanced. No demands for human disarmament. No forced surrender of colonies. When Ward entered the chamber, the alien leaders who had once mocked humanity now avoided his gaze. Chancellor Varys signed the treaty without a word. His claw trembled slightly as he handed the datapad back. Ward took it, glanced at the terms, and nodded once. May this peace hold. Then, without ceremony, he turned and left. The lesson. In the years that followed, the galaxy remembered that day. They remembered the sight of the human delegation walking away from the first truce talks. They remembered the weeks of silence, the rumors, and then the sudden lightning strike that crippled one of the most powerful empires in known space. And they remembered Admiral Ward's words, simple, calm, and unforgettable. Equal terms. Or no terms at all. From then on, whenever peace negotiations were held anywhere in the galaxy, one unspoken rule guided every alien leader. Never mistake human restraint for weakness.